The wind cut sharply through the streets on Christmas Eve, carrying the scent of roasted chestnuts and distant carols, but Daniel Ross barely noticed. He stood at the glass doors of his corporate tower, staring out at the city like it was a stranger. Inside, the lobby gleamed with marble floors and a towering Christmas tree dressed in gold and silver ornaments, perfect and untouched, just like his life looked from the outside. As a successful CEO and single father, Daniel was admired, envied, and endlessly busy, but on nights like this, the silence waiting for him at home felt heavier than any workload. He adjusted his coat, ready to leave, when a small voice stopped him. "Excuse me, sir." He turned to see a little girl standing a few steps away. She looked fragile against the winter night, her thin jacket zipped all the way up, her hands red from the cold. She clutched a faded red scarf like it was something precious. Her dark eyes lifted to meet his, nervous but determined. Daniel frowned gently and knelt to her level. Before he could ask where her parents were, she spoke again, her words tumbling out fast, afraid he might walk away. Can I borrow your Christmas tree?" The question stunned him. For a moment, he thought he had misheard. "My Christmas tree," he repeated softly. She nodded, pointing back through the glass at the enormous tree glowing behind him. "Just for tonight," she said quickly. "I'll bring it back. I promise." Her voice wavered, but she straightened her shoulders like she was making a very serious deal. Daniel searched her face, noticing the way her shoes were too big, how her fingers trembled, not just from the cold, but from hope. Seeing his confusion, she rushed to explain. "My mom is sick," she whispered, lowering her voice as if the city itself might overhear. "She can't get out of bed anymore. We don't have a tree this year. She keeps saying it's okay, but I know she's sad." Her eyes shone with unshed tears. If she could just see one, just for Christmas Eve, she would smile. Something in Daniel's chest tightened painfully. He glanced back at the perfect tree inside, admired by executives who barely paused to look at it, then back at the child who was asking for nothing more than a borrowed moment of joy. Memories flooded him, his late wife decorating their first tiny apartment, his own child once asking simple questions that carried enormous meaning. He realized how long it had been since he'd truly listened to his heart. He stood slowly, holding the door open so warm light spilled onto the pavement. "What's your name?" he asked. "Lily," she replied, gripping her scarf tighter. Daniel nodded, making a decision that felt more important than any deal he'd signed all year. "All right, Lily," he said gently. "Let's make sure your mom has a Christmas she won't forget." For the first time that night, the cold didn't feel so heavy. Daniel didn't explain his decision to anyone. He simply picked up his phone, made a quiet call, and within minutes the usual hum of the lobby shifted into confused whispers. Lily watched wide-eyed as security guards and staff carefully removed the velvet ropes around the massive Christmas tree. "Sir, you don't have to," she said nervously, afraid she'd asked for too much. Daniel smiled, a soft, unfamiliar smile that surprised even him. "You said you'd bring it back," he replied. "So I'm trusting you." The tree was loaded into a company truck, its lights still glowing like it was determined not to lose its magic. Daniel helped Lily climb into the passenger seat, fastening her seatbelt with the care of a father who had once done this every day. As they drove, the city changed. Shiny storefronts faded into quiet streets, then into older buildings with flickering hallway lights. Lily talked the whole way, about how her mom used to sing while cooking, how Christmas used to smell like cinnamon, how this year felt different and scary. Daniel listened, gripping the steering wheel tighter with every word, realizing how small problems at the office suddenly seemed. They stopped in front of a worn apartment building with chipped paint and a broken intercom. Daniel carried the tree himself up 3 flights of narrow stairs, refusing help, his arms aching but his heart strangely light. Lily ran ahead, pushing open the apartment door. Inside, the air smelled faintly of medicine and soup. Her mother lay on a small bed near the window, thin blankets pulled up to her chest. When she saw the tree being carried in, her eyes widened, confusion turning into disbelief. "Lily, what is this?" she whispered. "Mama," Lily said breathlessly, "I borrowed it. Just for tonight." The woman tried to sit up, tears slipping down her cheeks as the tree was placed beside the window and plugged in. The lights flickered on, filling the dim room with warmth and color. She covered her mouth with her hand, overwhelmed. "I'm sorry," she said weakly, looking at Daniel. "I couldn't give her Christmas." Daniel shook his head slowly. "You already did," he replied. "You gave her love." They decorated together using paper stars Lily had cut from an old notebook, taping them carefully onto the branches. Daniel found himself laughing softly when one ornament fell and shattered, and Lily declared it made the tree more real. For a moment, the world outside disappeared. No board meetings. No empty penthouse. Just a small room, glowing with borrowed light. As Daniel prepared to leave, Lily hugged him tightly around the waist. "Thank you for believing me," she whispered. Her mother watched them, her smile tired but peaceful. When Daniel stepped back into the cold night, he realized something had changed. He had brought a tree into their home, but without realizing it, they had brought Christmas back into his heart. The city moved on quickly after Christmas, decorations coming down, lights switched off, joy packed away like it had never existed. But Daniel couldn't move on. In board meetings, numbers blurred. At night, his apartment felt quieter than ever, yet no longer empty in the same way. His mind kept returning to a small room filled with paper stars, to Lily's laughter, to a tired woman's tears when the lights came on. He realized the tree had been returned, but something else had stayed with him. A week later, Daniel stood outside the same apartment building, this time without a truck or a crowd. He carried groceries in one hand and a small envelope in the other. Lily opened the door and froze, her eyes widening before she threw herself at him. "You came back," she said, as if she hadn't fully trusted that kindness could repeat itself. Her mother looked healthier already, color slowly returning to her face thanks to proper medicine Daniel had arranged quietly through his foundation. He never spoke of it, never attached his name. He only said, "Everyone deserves help staying on their feet." Over the following months, Daniel became a steady presence, not a savior, not a hero, just someone who showed up. He helped Lily with homework, listened to her stories, and brought small, ordinary things, fruit, books, warm blankets. Her mother found remote work through one of his companies, work that respected her health and dignity. Each visit stitched something back together inside Daniel, something grief had torn apart years earlier. One morning, as winter faded into spring, Daniel arrived at his office to find a small package on his desk. No return address. Inside was a folded piece of paper, thick with crayon marks. It showed a man holding a glowing Christmas tree under a dark sky, a little girl beside him, both smiling. Above them were uneven words, "Thank you for letting my mom smile again." Daniel stared at the drawing for a long time. Then, without hesitation, he removed a framed award from his wall and replaced it with Lily's picture. That evening, Daniel went home earlier than usual. He cooked dinner instead of ordering it, turned on soft music, and opened the window to let the city breathe with him. He finally understood something he'd missed for years, that success meant nothing if your heart had no place to rest. A borrowed tree had done what wealth, power, and achievement never could. It reminded him that love didn't need to be permanent to be life-changing. Sometimes, it only needed one night to change everything. And every Christmas after that, Daniel made sure one thing never changed: there was always room in his life for borrowed miracles, and for people who reminded him what the season was truly meant to give.